but they did release a minor update 17.1 for Business Central, and I believe Ken is in agreement with me here that it's not really so much a minor update as there is a lot of hot fixes and feature changes.
Yeah, what should we call this? Is this a major minor release or a minor major release?
In December, the air is crisp but toasty. Trees are naked and clothed with unseen nests. Silence is decorated with loud undertones, and Business Central released a minor update that has major improvements. Does this sound confusing? It should. In this podcast episode, we'll bring clarity to this cloudiness, discuss year-end, take a look at Smart Job Queue by SmartApps, and try out a Midwestern coffee-fused beer. So grab a snack and a drink, and let's get this show on the road.
Over 200,000 businesses running this.
On the fat tire.
Or fat tire. What did I say? Flat?
Sorry. If any of the operations that you're doing require the use of an outside processor or subcontract vendor, that is not supported with assembly.
Don't be afraid to talk to your partner.
Today, we're drinking Arrogant Bastard Ale.
I want to know why Jim picked this beer over the other one.
Because I really think it resembled, my personality more than anything else.
Level 3, Knuckles has been dispatched. He's on his way.
I think one of the benefits and detriments all at the same time is the visibility that it gave us into our actual data.
Welcome to another edition of A Shot of Business Central and a Beer.
Ken and Michael back with another episode of A Shot of Business Central and a Beer. And I don't know, it's kind of like a throwback Thursday for us because we're doing a remote podcast. So it's been a few months since we did that. Ken, how are you? And I'm assuming you're in the office.
I'm doing well. Yep. I am at the office. I'm glad we're doing this. I wish we could be together, but we'll get through this, and then we'll hopefully be back together next month. But we are drinking the same beer.
We are.
So instead of just grabbing something out of the refrigerator, we did go through the effort of coordinating and making sure we're drinking the same thing.
And I gotta say, the beer that you chose hits a soft note with me because of my love for coffee. For those of you who don't know, Ken chose something called a Fuel Café Coffee Stout.
Yeah.
And it's from Milwaukee, I guess, right, Ken?
Yeah, Lakefront Brewery is who makes it. And what's interesting is Fuel Cafe is an actual cafe, restaurant, and bar in the Milwaukee area. Originally, I think they have multiple locations now, but it's like a full bar and restaurant, but they specialize in coffee flavored and themed drinks and desserts.
Yeah, and this is where this Lakefront Brewery gets the coffee from to infuse the beer with.
Yep.
A little bit of a sad note, though, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I wanted to check out Fuel Cafe, and I think I saw on their Facebook page that they have closed down indefinitely, I guess, but they're hoping to reopen, sometime just because of everything that's going on. But so I popped the top off, and it smells exactly like I think it would smell for being a coffee beer. You get the subtle note of coffee beans. You get the beer smell. It smells really good. Give it a taste here.
Yeah, it is pretty good. It's not overpowering. None of it is. It really is. I mean, it's smooth, really smooth, kind of creamy.
Yeah.
And smooth. A lot of times these stouts can be like overpowering in terms of like either alcohol content or just the flavor of it, where it just like, punches you in the mouth.
Right. I'm getting like a chocolatey, milk coffee kind of taste to it. I mean,
Right.
It tastes really well.
Yep. Yeah. So far, so good. I'm liking it.
So, do you know what a stout is?
I don't. Did you look it up?
I did look it up. I did not
Yeah.
know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So,
do share.
a stout is a dark top fermented beer that can include a number of variations, such as like oatmeal, oatmeal stout, milk stout, or even a coffee stout, which is what we're drinking. Now, the difference between like a regular beer and a stout beer, from my understanding, is the kind of malt that is used to brew each type of beer. Mm-hmm. So stouts primarily are made with unmalted roasted barley, and this is where most people say they get that coffee flavor, that with most stouts. So that is the difference.
Yeah, definitely. It has kind of that more toasty type, almost like a toasty flavor too. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing that comes with the from the barley and malt. Chinook hops are used for this, but it's not very hoppy at all. IBU 27 is pretty low. 6.5% alcohol.
Good alcohol content.
Yep. Yeah, so I like this. Yeah, special shout out to you for a little coffee theme there.
Yeah, I'm a lover of coffee, so it's got a pretty good score on Beer Advocate too, a score of 79, which is definitely good. I'd recommend it. I'd drink this again. I don't know if I would. To me, this is more like a pairing beer, I guess, right? I would want to pair this with certain types of foods. I'm not sure I would just pop this open, just to drink without something to go along with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. How about this? How about roast beef with a mushroom gravy?
I don't know about that. Maybe.
that's on the website.
Is it? That's what's recommended.
I didn't make that up.
Roast beef with mushroom gravy.
Or enjoy it with a creamy tiramisu.
I can see that.
Fresh berries with vanilla ice cream.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't mind trying it with the roast beef and the mushroom sauce or whatever.
It's definitely a December beer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Got that.
It's a great pick.
Yeah.
So I also did a little bit of research on the Lakefront Brewery, which is who produces this beer.
Yep.
And it was basically started by two brothers who were from Milwaukee, and they started their first goal when starting this company or whatever was to find a place which was in walking distance from where they lived, which they did. And their first customer then happened to be within barrel rolling distance of their their first brewery. So they've been around for a little bit. I think since 1985, maybe 87. I didn't put that in here though.
Yeah, probably about 15 or 20 years ago, I went on a tour there. And this was the greatest. I don't know exactly how much it cost. I'm going to say it was like $5 or $10. But you get a full tour of the facility, a pint glass, a Lakefront Brewery pint glass, and then you got 3 tokens, I want to say. And after the tour, you could go. They had a huge hall-style bar area, and you could just go order up 3 different beers. So
wow,
it was really fun experience, and plenty to drink. I thought 3 beers, but they're strong. And what we figured out was that not everyone drinks 3 beers, so as they're leaving and walking out, people are walking by you saying, "Hey, I've got a couple extra tokens here for some beers. You want one?" And you're like, "Sure."
Yeah, so why not?
I think when we ended up stumbling out, we handed someone about 8 or 10 beer tokens.
Collected more than you could even use. That's great.
Right.
So
we're like $5 or $10 all in. And we had a pint glass to take home with us too.
That's getting your money's worth, no doubt about it. So it's funny you mentioned that though with the tour and whatnot, because this Lakefront Brewery claims to be one of the first, if not the first, to offer beer at the beginning, during, and after the tour instead of requiring visitors to wait until the end to get their beer.
Yep.
So
yeah, that is
makes
that
the
is
tour that much
correct.
more fun.
You could fill up. You could go to the bar, get a beer at the beginning of the tour, and drink as you walk. Yep.
Nice.
So, one little other interesting beer, topic. It is December, right? So it's Advent, and my lovely and thoughtful wife went out and surprised me and with a Advent calendar this year. And most of the time you got the little window and you open it up and maybe there's a piece of chocolate in there.
Yep.
When I open up my little window each day, there's a beer in there.
Not too little of a window then, huh?
No. And actually one of them was a 16 ounce, a tall boy beer.
Yeah.
So it's a place called the Beer Cellar in Glen Ellen, Illinois, where near where I live, and they offer these, like a limited supply of them that they put together, and it's filled 24 different craft beers.
That's awesome.
So I got it set up in my garage where I pull my car in when I get home, or when the clock strikes 5 o'clock, and I go out and I open up my window.
You're right there.
Yeah.
It's great. I bet that's a popular item this year with people staying at home, and I think maybe I'm wrong, but I think alcohol sales, aren't they up this year too?
Yeah, retail liquor store sales are way up. But I just read an article that said, and a lot of people actually are returning to like the beers that they're like they used to drink or are familiar with, like Coors Light, Miller Lite. So like those beer sales are way up in terms of retail, but overall, because so many bars, restaurants, and other venues are closed or limited, overall, I think beer sales are down this year.
Down.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. All right. So enough with the beer, I suppose. And next, we're going to bring to everybody the shot of Business Central. So stick around. Back for the shot of Business Central. Not too much different news this month around, but they did release a minor update 17.1 for Business Central, and I believe Ken is in agreement with me here that it's not really so much a minor update as there is a lot of hot fixes and feature changes. So for hot fixes, there's around 40 platform hot fixes, around 100 application hot fixes, and then 1 to 5 local application hot fixes per locality. Some of the features that were introduced are the enhanced email capabilities. You can control how account schedules for core financial reports are generated. There's the use new sales pricing experience, the improved VAT registration number lookup, the extension lifecycle telemetry and application insights for ISVs, use environment type and environment name launch.json properties instead of obsoleted sandbox name. And last but not least, symbols can be downloaded with a snapshot, initialize launch.json configuration using above environment properties. And I said last but not least, which I was wrong. This is actually last but not least, and this is the notify users of high-risk changes in selected setup fields, which is a pretty cool feature. Unfortunately, I was not able to try it out because of some issues with my demo environment. But Ken tried it out, and he's got some good or bad things to say about it. We will see.
Yeah, what should we call this? Is this a major minor release or a minor major release?
Maybe minor major.
I guess it would be a major minor release. But in any case, it's not just a couple fixes. There's actually several features for 2020 Wave 2 that are being rolled out, that were rolled out in November.
Yeah.
And the one that I want to kind of go through is this, notifying users of high-risk changes in selected setup fields. So how this works is it's actually something that you go through an assisted setup wizard to activate. It's called Monitor Field Change Setup. So you go in there and it walks you through like an assisted setup guide, a little walkthrough wizard where you click next. And then what you can do is you can track fields differently. There's sensitive fields, personal fields, or company confidential fields. So you can kind of classify them into different reasons that you're monitoring these. So what I did was I was just kind of looking at sensitive changes, and there's actually, you can, through the wizard, like a classification worksheet, and then you can go in and pick whatever tables and fields you want to track, and you mark them as sensitive fields, for example.
Okay.
And then when you're done doing all that, you continue and you assign who is the person that receives the notifications when these fields are being monitored, and then when someone changes something, right?
And the notifications are email notifications?
Yep.
Okay.
And then so then you finish, you wrap it up, and then you can go into the monitor fields worksheet again, and you can flag which of those fields that you're monitoring do you actually want to be notified about via email. So it's kind of like two steps. The first step, you're saying, these are the fields I want to monitor. And okay, what it does is it kind of works similar to the existing change log, where it tracks who made the change, what date and what time, what was the old value and what was the new value, right? But once you do that, the second step is to then go in and say, okay, I'm going to monitor these 10 fields, but for these 4 fields, let's say, when they change, I want to get notified via email that something has changed.
So is that the big difference between the change log and the monitor field changes, is the notification process?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
And actually, what I found in my testing was that I actually did a test, and I set it up on 3 different tables, and I did a test, and the first 2 tables worked fine. The third table, I did not get an email when I updated the value. So when I went in, I noticed in the worksheet that my field was missing, and I actually got an error. And the error message said, this table is monitored in change log. If you want to monitor it here, please remove it from the change log setup.
Oh, so you can't do both.
You can't do both. There's really no reason to do both, because the monitor fields effectively is doing the exact same thing as the change log is.
Yeah.
So I really wouldn't want to do both. So I went in, I removed the change log, and then I went in and I was able to add the fields, and I tested it again, and I got my emails. So once I changed the value, couple little tidbits that I found is when I did notice a brief lag when I left the record. So for example, I set up a change. So when I changed the inventory account on my inventory posting setup table, that I want to monitor it and get emailed. So when I left, I made my change. I then left. There was like a brief lag for about a second or two, and then it saved the change, and immediately, bing, I got an email. So. Really? The lag was, it was actually sending the email through the Business Central SMTP mail server. Right.
Nice.
So really? I immediately got the email, and it said, the email is nicely formatted. It says that you are signed up to receive email notifications when certain data is changed in the whatever company in Business Central. The following change was made. It tells you the field, what the original value was, what the new value was, who did it, and what day and what time. So
gotcha. Now I noticed that there was the new monitored fields worksheet page, and also the monitored field log entries page. Now I'm assuming the log entries page is just to monitor who's changing the monitored fields worksheet.
The log entries actually shows you. One of them shows you, what all the differences are, what all the what all those changes are.
Gotcha. Very nice.
If I go into the monitored log, yeah, it's actually every field. It's like the change log entries.
Okay.
Similar to that. And also a couple other notes. There is actually a service that's running, that's doing this monitoring, which you can stop and start. And if you do stop the monitoring service and then restart it, each time you stop it, the person will get a notification that it's been stopped.
Oh.
Via email. And then when you start it up again, the person gets another email that says that the monitoring service has been started again.
It's nice. It's real nice. Now I know that, sorry, you want to say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I know that you mentioned earlier that, you're kind of worried maybe that people are going to want to use this for more than what it's actually designed for.
Yeah.
And I've been wondering, since you mentioned that, what do you mean by this? My first thought was maybe Big Brother, they're going to monitor every single little field and, it could get out of control or whatever, but
yeah, no,
I'm not sure if that's what you mean.
Big Brother has been around in Business Central for years with the change log. So no, what I'm nervous about is it was relatively so easy to set up, and it just worked out of the box, so easily, that people are going to want to overuse it, right? The name of the feature is notify users of high risk changes in selected setup fields. Right. That's how Microsoft, right? So that's how Microsoft says it. High risk changes in selected setup fields. And so I did all my testing and I'm like, oh, let me just do a test here. Can I track if someone changes the credit limit field on a customer record? I want to know about it, right? Yep, that worked. How about the price on a sales order line? Someone updates the unit price, right? And it works. The issue is there's only one Business Central administrator that you identify as the notification recipient.
So there's only one?
So one person is getting notified. And yeah, it's not meant to be like an email workflow solution, maybe at least at this point, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe that'll be other people. I mean, if I could go onto the Microsoft Ideas site today, I would go in there and say, hey, this is an awesome new feature, but how can I change it so that I can, do some advanced settings on who gets the notification?
Right. Now, you trying to segue into the next topic of news there with the Microsoft Ideas?
Yeah, it's on the list. Yeah, you like that? It's an old,
pretty nice.
It's an old trick, Michael.
it's a journalism thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I thought it would be fun to go through this month. I was kind of looking out at the Business Central Ideas site, where you can go out there and you can log feature suggestions, or you can go out and see what's already been put out there, or do searches to see if other people are asking for the same thing, and then you can vote, and what it tracks the highest vote getters. So you could I could view the top ideas that are currently under review by Microsoft. And by the way, some of the ones that are out there, some of them are completed already, and those are still out there, and it shows that they're done.
Last time I checked, there was a lot of ideas too. Is there still a good amount?
Yeah, I want to say, total, maybe 800 or 1,000.
Yeah, a lot.
But again, there's also completed ones on that list. Which is
a lot too.
Yeah, so let's say 300 people, asked for notifications of when someone changes a key setup field, right?
Right.
And so Microsoft says, oh, you know what, we're going to put that into 2020 Wave 2. So they deploy that feature. They keep it on that list, and it just says, it marks with a little banner that it's been completed. So
very nice.
So it's a nice place to go. So I've got the top 3 current ideas under review by Microsoft.
I don't even think I could. I don't think I could. I know I couldn't guess any of these.
Probably. I mean, there's like 100 million things that could be, right? But so they're all related to document, email delivery, and attachments. The top.
Really?
Yeah. So
Wow.
the top one is that currently when you send emails out from Business Central, you can specify a from email address,
Mm-hmm.
and then everything comes out from that. And people are requesting multiple from email addresses. So like,
Multiple from
you
email
know,
addresses.
so like if you're emailing a purchase order to a vendor, it's going to come from a purchasing at cronususa.com. But if you're sending out a sales order confirmation, it comes from orders at cronususa.com.
Gotcha.
So
that makes sense. It's a good feature.
Yep. The next one, number 2, is the ability to drag and drop attachments.
It's a huge requirement.
Big request, yeah.
Wow.
So currently you have to go in, right? You have to click on the little attachments thing, and you have to click on choose file, go find the file, hit OK, and accept it. And people want the ability to just drag a file and drop it into like a SharePoint drag and drop feature.
I wonder if people use that as much as is what they're saying. Like, think about for Outlook. I don't even know. Can you drag and drop files in Outlook to attach it to an email? If you can, I never use it.
For years we've been deploying a solution from a company called Equisys, who has a product called ZetaDocs drag and drop. Wildly popular.
Yeah, I understand that.
And you're right. The number one use of it was taking either an entire email and dragging it and dropping it onto a sales order, for example,
mm-hmm.
or just even an attachment, like a purchase order that's attached to the email, just clicking on the attachment and dragging it and dropping it onto an order, for example. So those were the top uses of it. So even if you can drag and drop attachments, I think getting to the point where you can drag and drop an email or an email attachment is kind of another level. So
it sounds like it's what people want. So yeah, it would be next level.
and then the third one, number 3, is the ability to attach additional documents to emails that are being delivered from Business Central. Right. So
right along with number 2.
Yeah, let's say I'm sending a purchase order to a vendor, and when I do that, I want to attach drawings for the item or specifications for the item, right? So that's number 3 right now. So
yeah, see, now I would think that would be a little bit higher on the list, maybe number 2, maybe even number 1. To me, that seems like kind of a big deal.
What I thought was interesting about this is that all 3 of these are really, I mean, they are Business Central features, but they're kind of features where you're utilizing Business Central with Office 365 or with other apps, right?
Mm-hmm.
Attaching files.
That's the way of the future.
Emailing documents, right? They're not like features within Business Central. It's how you work and interact between Business Central and email and everything. Which, right, exactly. That's the key, right?
Yeah. When is there going to be just one solution that does it all, right?
Yeah, I think what we've seen, and I was talking to someone yesterday about this, is that it's starting already to become blurry, right? Where am I? Am I in Outlook? Am I in Business Central? Between Teams in December, which is another one of my news hits. I'm segueing into my next idea here. is the Business Central Teams integration with Teams integration with Business Central is coming out in December. So
yeah, they're all connected, and like you said, all the lines are completely blurred now. Well, not completely, but they're definitely blurred.
And I think it's going to become more blurry. It's going to get where, users, I mean, you're in, where does
you're in Teams all day long, right? Teams will have your email, you have your Business Central connection, you'll never have to leave it.
Right.
So
yeah, where does Teams, where does Office or Office begin and Dynamics end, right? Like, I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. So I only have one more little bit of information, and that is Business Central apparently is moving up in the world because it now has its own landing page on Microsoft Learn.
There you go.
Yeah. Other than that, I got no more news. What about you, my friend?
Yeah, just one more note, which I believe this may only relate to partners. I'm not 100% sure, to be honest with you, but Microsoft did a Business Central launch event that's available on demand now through January of 2021. So you may be able to find this online, but you have to register for it. And again, I registered for it, but I don't know if that's because I'm a partner or because I have a valid Business Central account. But what it is it's effectively it's a full launch event with probably 30 or 40 sessions hosted by various resources at Microsoft. And they kind of run the whole gamut, go through all the different new features that are coming out in 2020 Wave 2 with administration, development environment, the Teams integration, Power BI, modern client, all those different things.
Very nice. Yeah, we'll include a link to that in the show notes.
So I think if people are looking for more content about what's new and what are some new features and functionality, check that out. See if that's something that's available to you. Because you've got, I just looked, I went through the intro session and looked at the list of all the sessions on there. I mean, it's definitely some of the top, resources at Microsoft who are presenting these topics.
So they're getting a really in-depth knowledge base.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everybody, coming up, we're going to talk about. Let's see, we got coming up here. We got the Smart Job Queue app that we're going to talk about. And then after that, or maybe even before that, we're going to dive into the year end in Business Central. So stick around. Back for our featured app segment. And today we're going to take a look at an app called Smart Job Queue by SmartApps. And according to SmartApps, with the Smart Job Queue installed, you can get an email after each successful run or fail. You can also set it up to restart automatically after a fail. Another cumbersome task that disappears with Smart Job Queue is management and error handling of job queues in multiple companies. And this is because you can now set up all job queues in the same company and just configure in which it should run. Now, it's got a lot of features. Sounds great. Looks pretty cool. One big issue, though. Does not work in a sandbox environment. Ken, I believe you had the same experience as me.
Yep.
Did not work in the sandbox environment. So, in my opinion, it's absolutely ridiculous in today's world. Who wants to install apps inside a production environment and have it mess up something, without testing it before in the sandbox environment?
Yeah.
I don't know. What did you like about what attracted you to this app, Ken?
Yeah. So part of the reason that it caught my eye is because, more and more people are relying on what's called the job queue in Business Central to automate processes on a recurring basis. So you may be, let's say, you're importing EDI transactions via a process that's running on the job queue every 15 minutes, right? Or you're auto-generating pick tickets for the warehouse every 5 minutes or every 30 minutes, right? Okay. So those are things that run a just cost every night at 2 a.m., right? Those are things that you can do on the job queue. The issue with the job queue is that someone has to go in and monitor the job queue entries and review the job queue log entries if there's a problem. Well, not even if there's a problem, really to just monitor to make sure that the jobs are still successfully running, right?
Is this a daily thing?
Is it a what?
A daily thing?
Well, yeah. Yeah, right. I mean, if you want to make sure that your job queues are all running and haven't errored out, right? So, because what happens is if let's say you have a process and it's running in the job queue and it encounters an error for some reason or another. Maybe it's a user authentication issue, a bad data, whatever it is. That job queue process will just error out and stop.
Okay.
So what this app does is it will send an email notification every time a job successfully runs. It can also send an email when something does not successfully run.
So it's basically taking away the manual process of having going into the job queue every time and checking it as much as before because it's sending you notifications.
Correct.
So
yeah.
Okay.
So I could just say, you know what? Just send me. I want to get emailed if a job queue fails and does not successfully complete. Let me know. So that's what this app does. So I can kind of rest assured without having to go check all the time that all my job processes. And by the way, some of our customers may have 30, 40, or 50 different types of processes running on multiple job queues.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you could imagine, trying to check and make sure everything's running smoothly, it also can recover a job automatically after error. So once it errors out, it can restart it.
Nice.
Right.
Pretty
so
nice.
a lot of cool features. I think I saw it and I'm like, immediately thought of multiple people I know that would love this.
Yeah, anybody using the jobs for sure.
Right. Exactly. Right. So yeah. So and just to be clear, my experience. What I was able to install the app. So in my sandbox, I was able to install it. It installed successfully and deployed it into my sandbox correctly. But then when you go and you try to open the Smart Job Queue setup or overview page to actually start setting it up, you get an error that says that it's not available in a sandbox environment, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I would imagine that they've heard a lot of people complain about that.
Yeah.
Just because, from your experience, would you ever attempt to install a new app like that on any production environment if you didn't have to?
No, definitely not. I mean, right. No, never.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't have to, don't do it.
I was looking for the right word. I guess never. Never is the appropriate word, right? If you have a live database production environment, man, I would never just go deploy an app out there without testing it in a sandbox environment first, right? So yeah, we haven't talked to the folks at SmartApps. I'm guessing they're aware of this and understand what has to get done. And I'm going to be honest with you, even despite this, I mean, I still, I'll check back and try it again because it looks that cool, right?
Yeah, the features are very appealing.
Of a feature, yeah. So even if a job is running, it can give me better status messages to show me how long it took. When was the last time it failed? There's a lot of cool stuff it looks like it does.
Yeah, after this podcast, I think just for the heck of it, I'm going to reach out to them and just, see if they have, or just to make sure that they're aware of it or whatnot and see if, maybe they have some sort of workaround. Maybe they have, a version that's just not an app source that we don't know about that they can send us and we can try it out. So. And
we did just recently, I don't know, relatively recently, you had 17.1 updates get released. So, give everyone gets a mulligan. But
true.
Let's see. We'll check back in January and keep our fingers crossed.
All right. So coming up, we're going to talk about year-end in Business Central. stay tuned. I would assume this is going to be a very popular segment, given that it is December. So, welcome back, everybody, to the feature segment. And the feature segment this month is year-end in Business Central. Being the time of the year that it is, December, it's a pretty good topic to discuss. And a couple things that I want to bring to light here before the master, Ken, takes over and really gives a deep dive into the year-end Business Central is you should always have clearly defined month-end and year-end procedures. You want to have, you do want to do your pre-close year-end reports. So basically the bank account, detailed trial balance, customer trial balance, vendor trial balance, closing trial balance, and some other ones, consolidated trial balance, things like that. You want to do the post-close year-end reports too, which is also trial balance, aged accounts receivable, aged accounts payable, and a few others. Let's see what else I got here. So I then broke it down on how to basically do it, which I'm going to pass it over to Ken because Ken's going to tell you exactly how to do it. It'll make more sense if you say it than if I say it.
Yeah. So let's start with this. So yeah, it is December, and this is when we start fielding calls about what do I need to do to be ready for year end, and what are the steps. And let me start by just allaying all of the fears. Is that you should first and foremost treat the year end. And by the way, we're assuming that your fiscal year is a calendar year, right? Which most companies are. Most businesses operate on a calendar year as their fiscal year. So we're talking about the closing of your fiscal year, which typically ends on December 31st. So first and foremost, number one, treat the year end, meaning as you roll into January, just as any other month end, right? Okay. So all of the normal steps that you do at the end of a month, just do those normal month end steps. Now you may also have other processes and things that you need to do at the year end. You may have a special year end payroll, or you may have a physical inventory count at the end of the year that needs to get done on like December 30th or December 31st, right? So there are some additional, things that you, from a process standpoint, that you may need to do at the end of the year that you normally don't do at the end of a month. But from a system perspective, a year end, first and foremost, is no different than any other month end.
Now, do you think most companies have clearly defined procedures for month end?
Well, the ones we work with mostly do.
Okay.
But I love your first point is that you should have a well documented, clearly defined list of month end procedures, right?
Okay.
So if you don't, if you're not able to say, hey, give me a document or a report or a checklist that shows all the steps that you do at the end of the month and when you do them, then I say that should be step one.
Okay.
Right? Because when you get to the end of the month, you don't want to be having to remember all these things when you do them every month and reinvent the wheel. It should be like, okay, step one, do this, check. Step two, do that, check, right? And that's how you should really be operating month end. Now, when I say that you should go through your normal month end procedures, right? Let me be clear. The way that Business Central works, you should be able to treat the first day of the next month the same as you did as the 30th or the 31st of the previous month, right?
Okay.
You should never have to wait to post things into the new month, right? Like, I can't post these journal entries into the new month until we've closed out the old month. That's not the case. You can cross over multiple periods in Business Central without any problems.
Okay.
Because a lot of the reports that you're going to run to reconcile, like your aged accounts receivable report, aged accounts payable report, inventory valuation report, even your bank rec, all those things can be done with an effective date that is in the past. So on December 5th, you could say, I want to run this report. What was my aging as of November 30th? And you could run that report, and it'll say, here's what it was on that date, and then here's what your balance sheet said on that date. So that's the first thing, right? You can cross over and post across multiple months without any negative consequences, from a system integrity, data integrity standpoint.
Now you just have to set up certain users to be able to do that, right? Not everybody can do it.
Correct. Yeah. There's a user setup table where you can restrict users. So once you say, you know what, we should be done with all of our November activity right now, you go into user setup and you change the allow posting from date to December 1st to make sure that users can no longer go back and post stuff into November.
Makes sense.
So that's the first thing is when you're in the first few days of January, you should be still able to process January transactions while still finishing some December activity, whether those are shipments, invoices, payables, journal entries, whatever it is, right?
Okay.
So which I know that's a kind of a differentiator. Some systems that are out there, you can't start doing things in the next period until you've closed your previous period, and that's not the case for
So
this.
is that a positive in your opinion?
Oh, huge positive.
Okay.
Huge, right? The biggest risk, actually, I mean, that's a great feature. The ability to process transactions across multiple periods and even multiple years at the same time is a huge feature of Business Central. The on the other side of that coin is the risk that companies may not be properly closing out those periods like they should.
Okay.
So you need to have a solid month-end process first. So once you have let's assume that you have a solid month-end process in place, right?
Okay.
And you've gone through your month end. You closed your December month just like you normally do. So now from a year-end perspective, what are the steps that you have to do? The first thing you do is you go into accounting periods and you create the new accounting periods for the new year. You also create inventory periods for the new year. And then there's a process called close income statement.
Okay.
Which is, close fiscal year, right? And so what this process does is it doesn't actually close anything or do anything. It checks a box on your accounting periods table that prevents you from changing your starting date of your accounting periods for that year.
Okay.
So it's kind of like, what? Why the heck would they do that? Well, the reason is because once you close the accounting, your accounting year period, year for that year, it needs to know that, because what it's going to do is the next step is to run a process called close income statement. And what that does is that basically zeroes out all of your income statement accounts and creates an entry into your retained earnings. So the reason that you have to run this close year process in the accounting periods table is to verify that you're not going to run the close income statement process and then change your ending date of your year.
Okay.
So it's kind of a really mundane type, thing, but it does have importance, and it is relevant, and it is important. But I always there's so much nervousness when I tell people to go, okay, open up accounting periods, and there's a button on the top called close year. Hit that button, and they're like, well, wait, I may need to post more transactions into that year. And I'm like, you know what? Don't worry. All this is going to do is check these boxes on the accounting periods, which will restrict you from changing your starting date of these periods.
Now, every time you have to post, let's say you do the close and then you run the what'd you call it, the income statement job.
Yep.
Now, every time you have to do another, let's say call it adjusting entry, whatever, do you have to rerun the income statement job again each time?
Correct. So let's say you go through your whole year. Here's a totally normal scenario that occurs. So let's say you get to January 20th and you finally have closed out your December month. And you're like, I am done with December. I've closed it out. I've reconciled all my financial statements. I'm done. What we then tell people is run the close income statement process. And what that's going to do is that's going to grab your net income from your previous year and roll that into retained earnings. So let's say hypothetically, for the year, you made $100,000 in profit for the company. The whole company made $100,000 in profit. So you run close income statement, it books that entry to increase retained earnings by $100,000.
Okay.
That's on January 20th, you run that. Now you go through an audit process, or your outside accountant does a financial statement review. And then in March, they come back to you and they say, hey, we've got to go make some adjustments to our previous year. Right? So maybe you do some write-offs of accounts receivable. You post a journal entry to change your bad debt, allowances or whatever. So what you would do then is you would just reopen access to December 31st in the user setup table for yourself. Go in, record those entries, and then let's say that results in an increase of $5,000 in profit. Once you've done posting those adjustments, you rerun the close income statement process again.
Okay.
And it sees that you've now added 5,000, so it adds 5,000 more into retained earnings and zeroes out those income statement accounts.
Okay. So in my notes, and I have after that, so if there's a GL entry that gets produced from the job, you have to manually post the transaction, right? Business Central will not post itself to the GL.
Correct. What it does is it when you run the close income statement process, it actually generates an unposted journal entry in the general journal.
Okay.
So you then go in, you can review it, make sure that's what you were expecting, and then you post it. Yep.
Nice.
But you can run that close income statement process as many times as you want.
Okay.
So
Good to know.
To take it to the complete extreme. We had a customer, they went through an audit and they audited the previous 2 or 3 years. So, and based on the audit, they said, you have to go back and restate your earnings from 2 years ago and from last year.
Wow.
And this was like 9 months into the current year. All we did was we reopened access to posting dates for their controller back to December of 2 years ago. They posted some entries into 28, 17. We then reran the close income statement to carry those forward. Yeah. Then they did the entries for 2018 and then reran close income statement for 2018 and then the same thing for 2019, right? So there's never, here's in a nutshell, there's never a point in time in Business Central where you cannot reopen access to a previous period and post some adjusting transactions.
Okay, so what you're basically saying is the best practice is to close the year end when you're supposed to, and then isolate the adjusting entries down the road because it's better for like auditors and things like that.
Well, here's the real reason you want to do that, because if you know that you're going to have some audit or review adjustments to post in February or March or April, you still need to be able to produce an income statement for January, right?
Yeah.
But you don't know what those adjustments are. Well, you're not going to get a good year-to-date number on your financial statements unless you've run the closed income statement for the previous year.
Gotcha.
Right. Because what it's effectively doing is the closed income statement is effectively doing a journal entry to zero out all of your income statement accounts.
Okay.
And it uses a closing date, posting date, where it puts a C in front of the entry. So your actual closing date on those entries would be C 12/31/20, for example.
So it puts a C, you said, in front of.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you actually could do a search. You can say, I want to isolate all my system closing entries, and you could actually search for like C 12/31 entries, and see what all those were. Yeah.
So year end doesn't seem too complicated to me. Obviously, I'm a marketing person,
Right.
but where does, in your opinion, I guess, where does the confusion come in then with so many people having issues with it? Is it just they don't have their proper procedure set up and they just are pretty much lost in the beginning?
I mean, if I had to, first of all, there's a lot of other things that are non-Business Central related that have to be done at the end of the year, right?
Okay.
So when a lot of people talk about, well, I got to do my year-end process, that may include, right? You have to do like 401k reports, some payroll things, maybe HR, vacation analysis. So there's from a finance and accounting perspective, there's a lot of things that go into going through a year-end process, but from a system standpoint, specific to Business Central, it's a very simple process. And I would say the reason people have a hard time with it is because they only do it once a year. Right?
So they're not used to it and they're making mistakes. I gotcha.
Yeah. So let's say you went live on Business Central in April, right? Now it's the end of the year. Well, even if you did training on year-end process back in March or April, you don't remember it.
Right.
And unless you have a document that clearly defines what these steps are, which we have, right, called Business Central year-end procedures, like a template, training template, you wouldn't know where to begin. What do I have to do? Can I start posting transactions to the next year? So we always get a lot of questions just because it's something people only do once a year.
Gotcha.
So a lot of times we're on a Teams meeting with them, doing a screen share, walking through these steps that really only take about 5 to 10 minutes.
Wow. Not too long at all.
It's more training on understanding how the system is designed so that you can post across multiple periods or years at the same time and still maintain that data integrity, by period.
So it's really it all comes back to proper procedures, right?
Correct. Having
it laid out clearly so that you remember when you have to do it the next time and so forth.
Correct. Yes. And again, I've done it hundreds of times over like 19 years. I still, if I get on the phone with someone and I'm talking to them about the year-end process, I still open up this year-end procedures document.
Yeah.
Because why would I try to recall this off the top of my head?
Well, you're a CPA.
Yeah, but I'd still rather just look at step 1, step 2, step 3.
Right.
Make sure I'm remembering.
Yeah, better to get it right than wrong, for sure.
Yeah. So I would say, if the number one takeaway is you can post transactions across multiple periods and multiple years without issues. Treat your December or your final period, close as a regular month end, and then go through the process of closing your year and running the income statement. There you go.
Call us if you have any issues.
Yeah.
All right. So
yeah, it really is. It really is just a matter of understanding what the steps are, and then keeping that document handy so that once a year, when you need it, you can refer back to it and run through those steps real quick.
Gotcha. Well, that's a lot of finance. So who's ready for some beer reviews?
Always.
You want to go first? Or would you like me to go first?
I'll go first. Let me go back to my shoot. Where's my
I'll tell you what, this beer, it's got a unique quality that I'll talk about when I give my review that the other beers that we've had just did not have.
Ooh, look at that. Yeah, so what I would say is, again, I was nervous when I got it because I'm like, I don't know, coffee stout could be really
right.
And despite a lot of the scores, I think so. So I didn't go through some of the feedback that I found on beeradvocate.com. But let me just read a couple of them and then give you my opinion. Pretty mild stout with coffee. Aroma of coffee, taste is smooth, good mouthfeel, no bitterness, acceptable but could use more coffee in the taste, light coffee, roasted malt, but not very strong, somewhat thin for a stout, right? So those kind of come across like they're negatives, but for me, those are all positives.
Couldn't agree more.
I really like it. Again, a coffee stout's probably not going to be my go-to. I'm going to go only because I know I haven't assigned this number before. I'm going to go 83.
Nice. Yeah, I think those are positives too, what those people said. I think if it had more coffee flavor, it would take away from the little bit of beer flavor that you get into it or get from it, and it would overpower it and kind of taste like a bad cup of coffee, I guess. But I think they've got the mixture right. For me, this is the only beer. Now, we've had beers where we had that chocolate beer, and as it warmed up, or when it was cold, it tasted good, and then as it warmed up, the chocolate flavor really came through, and it was like a bad chocolate flavor, in my opinion. So this one, when it was cold, I got like a mixture of beer and coffee. Perfect, in my opinion. The mixture was really good. As it got a little bit warmer, it tasted kind of more chocolatey to me, but it was really good. And now, as it's getting warmer, I'm down to my last sip with this bottle. I'm getting a lot of coffee flavor. So it's the only beer that we've had on this podcast, in my opinion, that has gone through more than 2 stages of flavor changes as the temperature is decreased, or I guess increased the warmth with it. So, but I like it. I don't mind it being a little bit warmer. I'm going to give it, man, we've had some good beers lately. I'm going to go solid 84. 84.
Yep.
I like it.
Yeah, I always try to picture, like, if I opened up the refrigerator and I saw like a bunch of beers and this was one of them sitting in there, what's my thought going to be about grabbing one of those? And I think I would grab one on a day like today,
Yeah. Fall beer, cold winter beer, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, if you put this in there with some of these other beers like pumpkin spice beer and some crazy stuff like that, I'm definitely taking this over that. I would probably take this over certain beers like Miller Lite, Bud Light. I 100% take it over Miller Lite, Bud Light in the fall and winter seasons, for sure.
Right. You know what? And again, I'm kind of the master of the segue here. But as I think to the score I just gave for this Lakefront Brew, I think, okay, I gave it an 83. I'm thinking, I wonder what I gave that Samuel Smith chocolate stout, because I think I like this one better. But now I'm nervous that I gave a higher score to the other one. So I'm really, really looking forward to next month, at the end of December, when we do our 2020 year in review podcast. to just recap and talk about the highlights and lowlights of 2020 and Business Central and all the fun that we had doing this.
I hope the same, that I did not score this one lower than that other one. I hope I didn't. But if I did, and if you did, it just goes to show that we're really not professional beer tasters.
Yes.
We're just, professional
Hey,
beer drinkers.
Michael, if everyone hasn't figured that out yet, God help.
Right? We can't come up with the crazy reviews.
Yeah.
Oh, too funny. So, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And, Ken alluded to that we we're going to do a special 2020 year in review podcast at the end of this month. So, be on the lookout for that. We'll talk about some of our favorite topics, some of our favorite beers, some of the beers that we couldn't stand and whatnot. So thanks for doing this, Ken. I appreciate it. We are doing it remotely because, I got exposed to COVID, but I feel fine. I don't think I have it, but good to quarantine. So I appreciate you doing it remotely for me, Ken.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to hear you're feeling well, and happy holidays to everyone out there. I hope everyone is able to wrap up the year on a positive note, and let's look forward to 2021.
Yep, 2021 is where it's going to be. All right, everybody, don't forget to share the podcast. We'll see you guys next month.